What's up guys, it's Waggish American here today, and I am bringing you another model build video. This time it's going to be Revell's 1/48 scale Messerschmitt BF 109G-10. Now, this kit was purchased, as you probably can tell, 1/48 scale is not my typical scale. This kit was purchased for a group build. I will link to it in the description if anyone wants in, if it's still running when I post this video. So this is pretty much the cheapest 109 I could get my hands on, and it's actually pretty decent for what it is. Opening up the box, the decals have good color, and they are crisply printed. They actually come with swastikas as part of the kit, which is something I don't see a whole lot, because I seem to mostly buy European kits. Kind of downside, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but these decals are thick. They are very thick. So I don't know how well they're going to settle into the panel lines and such. Not a huge fan of the painting guide. It's kind of confusing. It looks very... It doesn't look realistic. It doesn't look like any pictures I've ever seen of a BF 109, so I'm going to probably be going off of more pictures I see than what they call for. Instruction-wise, it's not a complex kit, but the instructions are pretty clear. There's not really any confusion. Not a whole lot of stuff to be confused by, but it's standard instructions. Now, the kit itself, I was a little hesitant because just the boxing looked suspicious to me. And if you take it and you look on the elevator, it is a very old kit. The mold was cut, or the mold was first used in 1979, although this boxing is from 2011. The detail's actually still pretty crisp. There's not a whole lot of parts, 2 sprues. I've removed several of these parts from the sprues. The detail's pretty crisp. There's not a ton of flash. The recessed panel lines, although the edges appear to have gotten softer, are still there, still visible. The shape looks pretty accurate. I'm not really going to do any changes. I might add a little bit of detail to the landing gear wheel well, because as you can see, that's just about all you get. Again, there's not a whole lot of flash, not a whole lot of detail, but I'll take less cleanup over more detail any day, especially if the kit goes together decently. Getting to the clear parts, they're pretty good. The edge between the frame and the actual glass is a little soft, so that might be kind of difficult to cut, but they're clear, you can see through them. I might pose it open, depending on what I end up doing with the display of this. But yeah, that's the kit. I'll see you guys at the build.
For this build, I decided to try something new in the cockpit. I wanted to take the black pre-shading and bring it into the cockpit. I sprayed all the interior surfaces with a flat black. I then sprayed the cockpit with Tamiya German Grey XF63. I tried to use the same technique that I used for the exterior of my aircraft. Unfortunately, between the dark color of the cockpit and the fact I did not thin the paint enough, much of the intended effect was lost. For the landing gear doors and wheel wells, I use the same technique. However, I used Tamiya's RLM Grey instead of Tamiya's German Grey. Even though my mix was still too thick, the lighter color kept the effect visible. Once the interior paint had dried, I used a brush to apply a coat of Future over all the details. Using a Dremel, I drilled out the ends of the exhaust stacks. I applied Tamiya panel line accent color to the detail in the cockpit. Even against such a dark color, this one step adds a lot of depth to the build. Once the wash had dried, I used an old brush and some Vallejo light gray to dry brush the cockpit. These two steps, a dry brushing and a wash, instantly add a lot of interest to your model and really makes the details pop. I used microset and microsol to attach the instrument panel decal. In hindsight, I should have cut the decal into several panels, which would have aided the fit greatly. Once the flat coat dried, I used a variety of colors to finish the cockpit, including yellow, red, silver, and white. Once the cockpit was complete, I used some Humbrol poly cement to attach it to the fuselage. Before sealing the fuselage, you must add the exhaust. The fit on these was not great, and they required lots of carving to sit properly. Finally, I assembled the fuselage using my usual methods. I used super glue to attach the wings and stabilizer, later filling in the gaps with Tamiya liquid cement. I didn't have enough flat black to spray the entire model, so I mixed a bunch of different Tamiya blacks and grays together to create this color. I loved this base coat. Even though it came out a bit glossy, this ended up being one of my smoothest paint jobs yet. On this model, as far as painting goes, I didn't really try anything new. In the future, I would like to take another look at post-shading, as pre-shading just isn't giving me the pop I want anymore. I painted the entire model in the fashion you see here, differing only the colors, according to the callouts given in the instructions. For whatever reason, my camera refused to record the painting of the upper surfaces without darkening the entire picture, so I just cut it out. It does follow the same process as previously shown, however. After airbrushing Future, I applied the decals. You'll notice that when I apply microset, something odd happens to the paint. Apparently, I didn't let the Future sit long enough. From now on, I'm going to be sure to give it at least a full day to dry. Otherwise, all decals were applied with a typical microset/microsol. These decals were very nice. They were a bit on the thick side, but they ended up conforming very well, and there was no problem with silvering whatsoever. Once all the decals had set, I gave the model a flat coat. Besides the obvious effect on the paint scheme, this also served to seal in and protect the decals and pigments. I originally tried to use the decal for the spiral. However, conforming was the last thing that decal wanted to do, so I chose to hand paint it instead. I laid a thin baseline and then went through and thickened and cleaned it up until I got what you see here. Once the spinner was dry, I attached it to the model with some super glue, and the build was done.
And here she is, all done. So I had some problems with photography. I don't know if you'll be able to notice in the pictures or not, but my backgrounds are not good for the 74, 75, 76 camo scheme. For some reason, the white background really doesn't want to let it distinguish the grays, and then this exhaust stain just makes the entire picture super dark. And I guess that's some of the troubles of photographing off of an iPhone. So if any of you guys know of an app for the iPhone that can help me control my pictures a little bit more, I'd love to hear it. As for the kit was really good. It was like $6.50, $7, something like that when I got it. And it had that really ugly old Revell art, so I had my expectations super low. I was thinking this is going to be one of those horrible Revell kits. And with a couple very small exceptions, I was extremely wrong. It was a good kit. It was cheap, it built up nice, not too many fit problems. It's not crazy on the detail, but overall it looks pretty good. And the decals were really nice. I was a huge fan of the decals. They went on perfectly the first time. I didn't have to finagle with them or anything. The one kind of downside to this kit that I did not really like was the canopy. Now, you can see that I posed the canopy open. This is for two reasons. One, this is my first foray into 1/48 scale aircraft, and it's nice that a single seat fighter you can actually see the details on enough to justify posing the canopy open. So I did decide to do that, but the bigger reason was there's probably a full millimeter gap between the front windscreen and the actual hood part. And I could not figure out how to make that look good, so I figured it'd be easier just to pose it open and no one could tell. So yeah, it was a good kit. I definitely recommend it to pretty much anyone, especially someone looking to step up into 48 scale. It was good. I think it was a good step up for me, and it's actually kind of sold me on the scale. I'm considering changing all of my single engine builds to being primarily a 48 scale thing. I like the extra element of detail. One last thing I enjoyed. Painting the spinner was a lot of fun. The spinner comes as a decal in the kit, but it didn't fit at all, so I just took out the Vallejo white and a brush and just painted it. And that was a lot of fun. So next time, I don't think I'm going to rely on decals for the spinners. I like painting them enough to just do it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and leave a comment. I love reading them. If you'd like to see more, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.